What's the hot topic at the moment? Anyone want to guess? Yeah, Bitcoin or cryptos, isn't it? Specifically Bitcoin. Yeah. So I want to teach you a little something about, well, I say a little something I could spend probably 2 hours going through, but I want to give you a couple of little bits on what I've been doing. So how many of you understand the difference between trading and investing? I've covered this on free workshops that I've done before. Who understands the difference between trading and investing? Essentially, it's different in two ways. One's short term, one's long term relative to the other. And then on top of that, what you have is one is basically ownership and one is trading a contract. So for me, back when we saw Bitcoin come back down, settle down. So I managed to trade, I traded Bitcoin and actually purchased it and bought and sold it through this process. Didn't really know a lot about cryptos, had a basic understanding of the blockchain, looked at it and said, right, I want to experience this and experiment on it and see how it works. And I can remember getting out around this point here, got in and around here and got out here. And I remember it took 3 days to get out of my trade. 3 days, because back then the crypto exchanges were slow, to say the least. Anyway, so for me, once I started to see it bottom out and come back up, I was like, okay, I'm going to do some more research. So what I've done, and this is really important, I'm not making any recommendations on what you guys do, but for me, I treat something like Bitcoin no different than I would treat any form of share ownership or long-term investment. So I did the research and decided to actually physically buy Bitcoin and Ethereum and actually own it in a wallet because I believed in the process long-term. Give me a yes if that makes sense. And it's not so much Bitcoin and Ethereum, it's more the idea of cryptocurrencies and the blockchain. So I actually bought a batch around this level here, slightly higher, around this area here. I bought a small batch of 3 different cryptocurrencies. And relative to my overall investment portfolio, it was pretty small because, again, still didn't really know where it would go, basically had a longer term view. And then what happened was we came out and then went higher, bought a little bit more, not a huge amount. And then around this level here, I decided to do something else, not through my standard trading accounts, but through something called Revolut. I actually bought positions in the same 2, Bitcoin and Ethereum, or 2 out of the 3. So then what I was doing was taking a slightly higher percentage than I would risk in my trading account. So for example, if I had 10,000 in my trading account, the max I would risk on that is 2. Doesn't matter if it's 10,000, 100,000, whatever amount I've got, I'm only going to risk 2% maximum, on some strategies 1%. But with this, I took a small sum of cash relative to what I trade and I risked a little bit more. But the important thing here was it was a very speculative trade. Give me a yes if that makes sense. So essentially, this was money that I could afford to lose. So it's very speculative, different in the way that I traded it. So then what I did was I got in around August time. You can't see it too well on this chart. I might have to go down to a lower time frame, just a higher time frame actually. No, lower time frame. There we go. Yeah, so you can see it a lot better here. So I got in August. Here. So I got in August when we broke those highs. And then I got in again just here. So I was a little bit fortunate as well. It was just after the breakout. So I'm just trying to get a pen so you can see. So I got in here. That was the last point I got in. And then I got in August when we broke out of that little sideways move. Yes, we had a little high here. So for me, I plan to be in this, what I would call longer term trade. I plan to be in this until we reached 50,000. If we didn't reach 50,000, that was fine because I was going to cover it and I had essentially a stop. With that account, you can't have a stop the way you do when you trade here. But essentially what I was doing was saying, right, if we break these lows, I'm going to bail out of that, but I'm going to run it up. And if we get it the way I want, I'm going to get to 50,000. Now, have a guess what I was predicting in my mind in terms of time for how long it would take to get to 50, for Bitcoin to get to $50,000. Have a guess. Anyone want to have a guess? In terms of time, and there's a lesson in this. I was looking if it remains positive, I was looking for 2 to 3 years. Yeah. And then we basically do it in the best part. And that was 2 to 3 years from this point, from 20,000. We basically do it in a couple of months. So the lesson there is nobody knows where price is going to go, and nobody knows how long it's going to take. So yeah, we did it very quickly. So I got out slightly off. I got out of 52. So I got out of 52 out of that position. So in terms of percentage return, relative size in terms of money, it only made up probably about a quarter, just under a quarter of the 20K, because it was a much smaller amount of money in relative terms. But in percentage terms, it was a big return. So percentage return, it was a big return on the money. So yeah, I'm out now. I've only sold half of that position. Okay, so I've only sold half. Let me be clear. I haven't sold all of that. I've sold half. The other half, have a guess what I'm looking to run that to. Have a guess. Give me a figure. See if you guys can have a clue. So I've got out a half at 50. Have a guess where you think I'm going to try and run the other half to. I can show you the order. So you might be able to see it on the screen if I just do this. So you can see there. You can see the little red dots right at the top. That's where I've got out half the position. But I've still got 2 positions running right there. So I've still got 2 positions running. Yeah, I'm going to go for 100 on that. But do I know it's going to hit that? I have no idea whether it's going to hit that. I have a long-term view on cryptocurrencies, but I have no idea if it's going to hit that. Give me a yes if you're all following. Because the trouble is, people hear stuff like that and think, right, they must know something that I don't. They must this. Ultimately, with this particular setup, do I have tons of data to back up what I'm doing here? Do I have tons of data to back up what I'm doing? The answer is no, I don't, because this is completely new territory. I don't have years and years of trading records on 5-minute charts, 60-minute charts. So for want of a better word, you could argue that what I'm doing here is actually a punt. Over here is an investment, but I'm basing that on research, and I'm doing that based on that. But this is very different to what I was doing with the oil trade. The oil trade's got 20 years worth of tested trades and nearly 4 years worth of live data behind it. So it's important to understand that the two were very different. So you could argue there was a little bit of luck in terms of the timing, that we had a 12% winner on oil the same week that Bitcoin came up and hit the 50% mark. And it's important to understand from the long-term perspective that trading can actually be a lot like that, where what you get is you get good times, not so good times, really good times, not so good times, flat times, okay times. Your equity curve in trading doesn't go like that. It doesn't look like a Bitcoin chart all the time. You get periods where that's happening, but not all the time. All right. So just a couple of lessons. Give me a like if that was useful. Give me a yes. Just a couple of lessons on what has happened the last couple of weeks. Good. So we'll come to questions. So we've got a load of questions that I want to go through, and then I'll come to your questions before we finish. I wouldn't be surprised if I get a couple of crypto questions when we go through this. So let's go back. Right. So